Besides sending the police, you might want to send an ambulance or a hearse.
Hello there, Billy Ho here, coming at you with the Masters 2023 DraftKings show. I am joined by the DFS chef on Twitter. His name is David, and he has a stat model that we're going to go through and look at a little bit. We're going to talk the impending weather that's coming in this week, first off, and then we're going to get into some players. We'll talk pricing, DraftKings wise, and get into maybe some value plays and talk about the live golfers and kind of cover a little bit of everything. So jump on in here with us, and we're gonna get her done. Real quick before we start, though, I do ask you to hit that subscribe button. Appreciate that, and the like as well. Almost at 300 subscribers, so it's been up on the uptick. I thought Masters would boost me, so it is doing its job. Got hundreds. I forgot what last I checked. It was like 500-600 views on the preview show that I put out earlier at the end of last week. So I so appreciate you guys watching and checking it out and commenting and everything like that. So the other thing is subscribe, smash the like. Our Discord's out there, my preview articles out there, and the contest is out there. And it's an extra dollar this time around. I always bump it a dollar for the majors, but I went with top three paid instead of two. So we're going to distribute that money a little bit. So what's up, Dave? Right before we get started, I just want to check in with you.
I'm good, man. I'm ready to rock and roll with this major. I've been looking forward to it. Last week was good, could have been better, but I'm ready to roll that money into
Yeah,
this week right now.
yeah, me too. When I saw my name right up at the top, I was actually winning the three max hybrid at one time over the weekend, and then who was it? Oh, Brendan Todd. I thought for sure it's bounce back Sunday for Brendan Todd. What'd he do? Go out and do the same damn thing. I think he was even worse. But anyway, we're going to get into it. This is Masters Week. We don't care about Valero anymore. I did have Corey Connors, so I did profit a little bit, but uh, we're all good there. So let's get it started. All righty then. Okay, this is Windfinder, and I have preached on Windfinder before on their exaggerations on these gusts, as you can see. But they do seem to have toned it down some in the last couple of months, where they've actually gone the opposite direction, where they're not even that bad. But weather is going to be a huge topic of discussion this week. So it's expected to rain in some form or fashion all 4 days of the golf tournament, basically. Thursday, not so much. It starts a little bit in the afternoon. I don't think we're going to get that serious of a, but it's too early to tell. It's just Monday. All this weather could push. It could move forward or it could push backward. It depends on what the front does. But it's looking pretty solid chance of some pretty significant rain Friday and Saturday. Saturday right now is looking at. I mean, when you look at it and you start seeing these drops like 0.52, you know, when it starts getting up, see when it's a little bit, it's 0.05, 0.02. That's a little bit of rain. But when it starts getting up here and you see the little three drops there, 0.52, that's some heavy rain. So we're gonna have to be cognizant of that, and probably will matter when tee times come out, where guys are listed for tee times, because it looks like the AM Thursday guys are just going to get a clean slate of maybe some little bit of gust, but as some of the system moves in, but likely going to have some of the better conditions of the first two rounds of the golf tournament. And just real quick before we get into it, the cut is top 50 and ties. They did away with the 10-shot rule 2 years ago, so everybody needs to be on board with that. But top 50 and ties, it does make a difference when you're only talking 83 golfers or however many we got left after the Aaron Wise news. So anyway, with that much rain, the good news is it doesn't seem to be significant amount of wind until you get to this Friday level, and you see the PM where it's starting to get up in the teens, and then the gusts. So we might see that because this is going to be some pretty decent uh, rain. So we may see 20-mile-an-hour gusts and whatnot, but it might even come out to. But see, you'd be going AM PM, so if PM AM might be the way to go. So, but we don't need to worry about that till probably Wednesday, and especially once tea times come out. So, getting into these players here, I wanted to see where Dave's got his rankings, and I thought Scotty Too Hottie would be number one. Real quick, what I'm looking for power off the tee because the fairways are pretty forgiving, but your distance will matter on a soft golf course. Solid approach is going to be paramount with softer greens because guys, even the short knockers with guys throwing it out and 200 yards out, a guy can throw it at the flag and still stick it 10 or 15 feet because the ball will stay. It won't hop and bounce around like it would on a firm surface when you're getting this kind of rain. So obviously, short game and course history are huge. So I'm going to start it off with Dave. He's going to get us into our 9K and up, and just give us a little bit of what stats you're looking at.
Very much the same as what you just mentioned. I mean, obviously, there is no other golf course on tour that course history matters more than Augusta. Um, and last week, I believe Valera would have been when it comes to course history, but that's why I'm weighing course history a little bit more this week, even more so than current form. But I'll be looking at both. If it comes to a tiebreaker, I'm going to go with the guy that has better course history this week. Instead of breaking down each sub stat this like I normally do, I just put strokes gained tee to green this week, and I weighed strokes gained tee to green pretty heavily, which obviously takes into account off the tee, approach, and around the green. Everything except once you're on the green. And honestly, putting really is it's not really a putter's contest, like a lot of these other tournaments. So I'm not really focused too much on putting. I will, on my bets and player pool tab, I did put strokes gained bent grass putting. That I will look at on that particular tool. But like you mentioned, guys that are going to be longer off the tee, especially in the rain, you're not going to get that rollout on the fairways. So you're going to want guys that can definitely send it out there because once it hits the fairway, it's pretty much going to just stop. So you definitely want that extra yardage that some of these guys have. And then obviously each and every week, even more so this week at Augusta is your par five scoring. So I have par five scoring average in there, birdie or better percentage. I do have bogey avoidance in there as well. And then for the first time this year, just a small little smidgen on stroke differential field average, which I honestly do like using, especially in the majors. So when we get into these 9K plus golfers this week, um, obviously the three guys that are 10K plus, you're going to see everyone getting kind of evenly distributed. And, we're already seeing that, at least based on your first look ownership projection on Rick's, website. Yeah. And you can see that Scheffler and Rahm are those two guys. And then Rory is coming up right behind. And then Spieth, which if anybody watched, that Millie Maker, podcast that Pat did with Kenny Kim and Ben Raza, all three of them were kind of in agreement that the builds were going to most likely be, they were going like Rory and then Spieth, but you can easily go Scheffler or Rahm and then Spieth, and you can see that based on these first look ownership projections. So I mean, it's right there. Cam Smith obviously has a great track record here. This is our first live golfer that we go into, and honestly, at 9,800. The track record's great. I just don't think I can pay $9,800 for a guy that hasn't been playing on the PGA Tour. I mean, yes, live golf is still golf, and the guys are still putting in rounds, but they're not putting in as many rounds as you would see on the PGA Tour. And it's kind of more of a relaxed atmosphere, but there's definitely incentive for these live guys this week. I know that Greg Norman is kind of really plugging it, and they really want to stick it to the PGA, and hopefully one of these guys, wins. At least that's their mentality. But I'm not paying $9,800 for Cam Smith this week. I do like Patrick Cantlay. I mean, he's not the greatest at the Masters, which I mean, we can honestly say the same thing about Max Homa. But
Yeah.
those two guys are I mean, exceptional golfers, and even more so Homa this year. But and he has begun to improve. You can see he 48th last year, but for $9,200, you definitely want someone that's going to be better than 48th. But he is showing signs of improvement each and every year. You can see 2021, he missed the cut by a stroke. 2020, he missed the cut by a stroke. It's definitely something that is a little worrisome, and that's why I think JT and Morikawa are going to garner more ownership than both of those guys. And I do like both of them. Um, it's just whether or not you want to go and pay, for one of these 10K plus guys, or if you want to take that alternate route and go 3 9K guys or 2 9K guys, and then the guy that obviously a lot of people are on at 8,900, but we'll go into that once we hit the 8. So I'll kick it over to.
Yeah, that sounds good. I like the foreshadowing there. Uh, and I'm with you. My first look was actually sticking 3 of these 9K guys in there because we'll get to it later on. But the sub 7K has some pretty juicy guys, and even the sub 7. I never get down in the sub 6,500 range, but there's a couple of guys we're going to talk about, I'm sure, down there, which will allow you to comfortably get 3 of these guys in here because you're not going 9,900. Like you could start, like I started one with Spieth, and then I went JT and Kawa, or you could literally start JT and go to Kawa and hit, players to be named later. Xander, I think actually looks like he might be a bit of a sleeper. I haven't looked at the ownership, but that Cam Smith, though, I feel you on your decision to say I'm not paying 9,800 for Cam Smith because I agree with that because it is kind of like it almost feels like Sunday beer league shit with me with this live tour and it's just and I just picture these uber rich guys in their Saudi, how they wear the robes and stuff. And they're all in their fantasy leagues, like they're fantasy football guys, and they're smoking hookah pipes and shit. And they're like, oh, I'm drafting. I got Bryson's team this week, and I'm going to bet you 750 million. No, okay, 3 oil wells. I'll put 3 oil wells up this week, or something like that. And these guys go out and play golf, and they seem to be kind of competitive. I'd say with that said, that live Orlando might be as close as you're going to get to like a legit competitive experience because I think those guys were all gearing up for the Masters. So that's why you saw the leaderboard with Brooks Koepka, Patrick Reed, Dustin Johnson, all those guys, all those dudes up there competing. So I think maybe everybody dialed it up a bit there. But that ownership is pretty nice on Cam Smith. I don't think guys like him forget how to putt. And that's what this dude can do is putt. Now, when he has the irons dialed in, that's where he gets these second and third place finishes and whatnot. And the win at, the Open Championship last year is when he has the irons dialed in and he's not spraying the driver. If he's driving the ball good, his ball striking is good. He's a really, really hard guy to beat. But going down here into Spieth range, I was digging Spieth, but that ownership is concerning with that much because I just thought Spieth has just been playing too well this year, not to be considered. When he's been like not vintage Spieth, he hits a third place finish in 2021. He obviously has won this tournament. So as if he can keep the ball in play, because he's one of them double cross guys to the left. And like what my man Rick Run Good just said a few minutes ago on his preview show, you do not want to be left at Augusta. left is dead in at a lot of holes. And he was talking about, I forgot who he was mentioning, that was a guy when he loses it, he goes left. I'll have to rethink that and maybe post it in the comments or in the Discord or something. But I thought it was kind of weird because he was talking about Cam Smith. He said when he misses left, he's, and then he goes and starts talking up Jordan Spieth like he's great. And I said, I've seen Jordan Spieth double cross left plenty of times. So I'm not really sure. I think he's just a little biased, like he's really rooting for Spieth to win. But I agree with you on Cantlay. The guy kills par fives. He's a stud. JT, I've come around on because he's just so disappointing with the putter. But if he's driving the ball fine, he's gonna be there. I mean, he's too good a ball striker, and if the course is soft, I think he can dial it in and make enough birdies to be competitive and score. Morikawa is kind of a sleeper in that same fashion. If he's dialing it in with the irons, he's going to make birdies. Xander is the one actually that I'll finish with, and before we get into the 8Ks, his driver has been a little off the last couple of rounds. He's lost a little bit off the tee, but if he can get that back going again, he's a guy who's had second and third place finishes, albeit some of them backdoor and whatnot. But the miscut last year, I think, was an anomaly. Who knows what happened there, but he was just garbage all the way around there. But getting into the 8Ks, Tony Finau, I feel pretty comfortable like he was a cash game play of Kenny Kim's. I just get that feeling. He's just hitting the irons are too good. I mean, he would really have to shit the bed off the tee for him to blow it. And he can dial it in, and he usually does pretty well on Augusta type shaved greens. When he gets in trouble around the green, it's usually with those thicker Bermuda type lies where you don't know if the ball gets underneath. He gets the yips a little bit. So I feel pretty comfortable with him. The Dustin Johnson is the second live guy that we'll talk about, and he's just got Dustin that I feel like he can just roll out of bed and top 10 this thing. So I got no problem. 8,800 and 10 to 12% ownership. I will play Dustin Johnson. Book that just because I don't think I just think he does it on talent alone a lot of times. I don't feel like he's a big like gym rat where he practices all the time. He's just good. And then you get down a little bit further. The first guy that I thought was a little bit ambitiously priced was Cam Young. And I get it. The dude is long off the tee. He seems like he could really, really dominate a course like this, and especially a soft course, because he's throwing the irons in. I mean, he gained like massive amounts of strokes on approach at the match play. He was killing everybody on approach. So if he can start throwing darts, but the thing is he going to make those putts because he does tend to struggle 7 to 8 feet to 10 feet making those putts. Hovland, I do like because he scores DraftKings points and he's pretty solid. The ball striking's been there. He's just been, I think maybe you can see he's just under 12% owned off the jump. I would play him over Jason Day. I will be happy to let Jason Day at 20% beat me at Augusta because I know he's had good finishes, but I'm not gonna play that ownership. You get down a little further, and I'm Decky with the neck. If the ownership's there, he looked pretty good at Valero. But the rest of these guys down here, I'm wishy-washy on. We're going to talk about a lot of different guys. So jump on in here, Dave, and take us through your 8Ks and 7K guys.
Yeah, it sounds like we're on the same page once again here. Finau, obviously, is ranking third out in my model right now. Finau's always going to give you, not always, but typically will give you one bad round, whether it's the third round or whatever it is. He always seems to have that one round where he slips, but he seems like someone that is very safe to make the cut. I don't know if he's going to don the green jacket, but I can see him easily giving us a top 20 this week. top 10 would be, I think, a very good finish for him. You mentioned DJ. Um, he would probably be the first live guy that I would consider for DFS. I don't know if I'm going to go there and play him in DFS. I might actually risk putting a bet in on him and see what happens. But for those guys that play Yahoo, I already put it in the Discord. He's an auto lock on Yahoo. I don't know what they were thinking, because if you look on Yahoo, Cam Smith, I want to say, is like $38 on Yahoo. Dustin Johnson's $21 on Yahoo. You can't tell me that Cam Smith is that much better than Dustin Johnson. As a matter of fact, I would say Dustin Johnson is better than Cam Smith, especially if you're talking long form, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
And at $21, I'm lock and load on Yahoo with Dustin Johnson. Jason Day, I'm kind of in agreement with you. You know, he's been playing unbelievable, unreal golf, back to like where he was ranked #1 in the world kind of golf. Just hasn't won it yet this year. But $8,700, and at that ownership, I have no problem fading that much ownership. And if he happens to don the green jacket, good for him, you know. But yeah, Cam Young to me is overpriced. Um, he's a great golfer, but I would much rather take the $100 savings and go to Victor Hovland, who, once again, yes, Young did play here last year. He missed the cut by quite a bit, but he has at least seen the course now and he's played it. He's got some experience, but I'd prefer to go with Victor Hovland, who has more experience on this course and has done much better. Um, and he is just as good of a ball striker as Cam Young. Hideki, I was on the fence with, but what we saw at Valero kind of sparked my interest, and I probably will have some shares of Hideki. Zalatoris, great course history, but I think we already kind of mentioned it in the Discord. You know, when you hurt your back and you have to adjust your swing, I don't think he's injured. I don't think he's hurt. I think that he's still trying to get used to the new swing, and he's compensating
I do too.
for the new swing, and it's going to take him a little time to get acclimated and comfortable with that new swing. So, and it seems like everyone's fading him. So if you want your ownership leverage, that's your ownership leverage right now, and go to Zalatoris and trust his course history of a sixth and the second. But the first guy that we get into, where a lot of people in the industry say he is egregiously mispriced, that's Sung Jae. At $8,100, you know, I know Kenny Kim, his Korean brethren, he's in agreement that Sung Jae is horribly mispriced. He should be probably in that, you know, I would probably flip flop Cam Young and Sung Jae, to be honest with you, and I would have no problem with that.
I'd agree.
So I do think Sung Jae is going to be heavily owned. Matty Fitzpatrick, the neck just does not seem right. He still seems out of it, and I just can't trust going to Matt Fitzpatrick this week. And if he does well, he'll burn me, and I'll just dip right into the sevens. You know, before all this weather and everything, when this came out, I was looking at it and I was going to be full fade on Shane Lowry at $7,900. But now with this weather, this is the perfect weather for Shane Lowry. I mean, the guy won the Open Championship, and when we look at this weather, it screams Shane Lowry. You would think it would scream Terrell Hatton, but Terrell Hatton has made it known he can't stand playing at Augusta. So for me, Terrell Hatton's an easy fade.
Yeah.
You know, Justin Rose, another Englishman, used to that rain and all that kind of stuff. I'm on the fence with Rose. I'm probably leaning more Fleetwood than I am Rose.
Let me ask you this, Dave. Do you remember the Open Championship? That's where we're talking about with Lowry, and I'll comment on it too. But wasn't Rose the one that was competitive too? And then that Sunday where it was raining, he just absolutely imploded.
I believe so.
He had like I forget like how many double bogeys he made, but he just seemed to really struggle in that pouring down rain. But dude, Shane Lowry was like just like I mean, he just got out there and at that Sunday round where it was pouring down raining and just played his ass off. And that I thought the same thing when you brought him up. I wrote it down. Bad weather, good putting. And he's got actually pretty positive putting at Augusta in his career. So go ahead and keep it rolling.
Yeah, Fleetwood is someone I'll be looking at. Like I always mention, when Fleetwood is in the 7Ks, I'll roll him out there. It's when he gets into that like upper 8, 9, whatever it is, I will fade him every single day of the week until he proves to me that he's going to win on U.S. soil. But at 7,700 in a major with good course history, I'll roll him out there. Like you mentioned, Brooks has missed the cut here the last 2 years, but I know he's won, I think, 2 live events in the last several weeks.
Yeah.
And we know he's a major killer. He just hasn't won the green jacket. He has had a second place finish.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't think he's won the green jacket.
No, he hasn't. He actually he had that real where's it at? Yeah, the second was 2019 when
Yeah,
Tiger won it, and
on
it was
Tiger.
him, Molly, and I think maybe even one other person that all went in the water
Yeah.
on 12.
Yep.
Yeah,
So,
but they
so
were
I mean,
right there.
yeah, I mean, I'll roll Brooks out there, and I believe Brooks is like really egregiously mispriced on Yahoo as well, if I'm not mistaken. Minwoo's been playing some great golf and debutante here last year and had a T14. So I know Minwoo's name's getting mentioned. And then even before Connors won last week, Connors was going to be chalk for the
Mm-hmm.
Masters based on his course history here. I mean, he has improved each and every year he's played at Augusta. And the icing on the cake was winning Valero, but his ownership was already going to be probably where it is. It might have bumped up a couple percentage points,
Yeah,
but you got to think Connors is going to be chalk. And I mentioned it to someone else that I mean he's not showing it right now, but when everything's all said and done, I think he might be the highest owned golfer this week, just because of where his price is. He just kind of makes everything kind of fit,
yeah,
and depending on what your first two guys are, he's like the perfect third guy in for you. So I think he's going to be extremely highly owned.
mm-hmm.
Um, And then I do like Siwoo here this week. I prefer Siwoo over Minwoo, even though Minwoo had that debutante T14. It's not much savings, but that extra $200 could mean a little difference for you. So I do like Siwoo, and then we'll get into the live guy. Patrick Reed obviously loves this place. Uh, he is a Georgia boy, so he is very familiar with this course. So I have no problem rolling Patrick Reed this week at 7,300. And then even though he withdrew from this tournament last year, Louis has always been someone that steps up in majors. So at $7,200, I do like Louis, and I also like Mito. Mito at 7,200, I think, is in play as well. Um, Keith Mitchell, another Georgia, another Georgia boy. I can see maybe rolling uh, a couple shares of Keith Mitchell. Chris Kirk's a Georgia guy. Good finish last week. I'm on the fence right now with Kirk. Probably going to lean a little bit more Russell Henley than I would Kirk.
Yeah.
And Henley's another Georgia guy. If I'm not mistaken, Henley went to Georgia Tech, if I'm not mistaken. So I am leaning Henley over Kirk.
Yeah, I do. Actually, I have Henley written down at 7K here, and yeah, I think Henley might actually be a Georgia guy. I think the only Georgia Tech dude is like Kuchar. I think there's like 50 Georgia guys, and who what was Patrick Reed was I believe one of them at a time, but he like got kicked out of school or something, and he had to go to some like Georgia Community College or something. But I digress. I think getting up back up here into your top sevens, we didn't talk about Neiman. And Neiman feels like a guy that could. I like Neiman on bent grass. He is definitely a guy that ball strikes the shit out of it. He could be sneaky. I didn't really look at his ownership, but these were guys. My player pool is huge, but I will whittle it down. That's one thing I do want to mention about player pools is make your decisions and stick with them, because in events like this, the pricing is so good. You could end up with 35 guys in your player pool when you normally play 20 in a week. You're just like, oh, well, I can't miss out on this guy. Oh, well, I got to have Tommy Fleetwood. Hell, he got 14th last year, but then you really got to have, like I may like Corey Connors. I may end up fading him. I don't really know. He got his win at the Valero, but if he knocks down another top 10, maybe so be it. I don't know. That ownership is really out of hand. Like you mentioned, Brooks. I mean, if we can get sub 5 Brooks, and I will say these two missed cuts, he was battling that knee injury for 2 years at least. He literally missed, I believe, an entire set of majors. Like I think it might have been 2021 where he played the Masters and then he didn't see another major the rest of the year. I can't recall. And where he went through all that shit on I'm gonna watch it on Netflix, the show on and check him out. But I think he's healthy. Like you said, he's been tearing it up on the live here recently. Getting down here a little more, you got guys. I might give Tiger a shot. I don't know if the upside's there, but the dude can dial it in when he wants to. But I just don't know if he can do it over the weekend. Like I could see him in contention going into Saturday, but I don't know if he'll wear down and end up in a 38th position. But for 7,300, he's not going to hurt you. So if you want to have some Tiger in there, especially sub 10, I'm cool with that. I did kind of like Kirk, and that's why I went over here to this combi because he's played here. You can't tell. Where's he at? Down here a little bit. He played back in like the 13, 14, and 15 or something like that. But he's made some cuts here. That dude's got the left to right, or I mean the right to left ball flight down pat. He won the Honda, and that's the place that you need a left to right ball flight. So I think the only thing that concerns me is around the green, the short game, around the green and putting, I think might be a problem for him. But getting down a little further, Mito is interesting. He seems like he would be a fit, but the debutantes, I feel like like Kitayama is in the same boat. There's a bunch of dudes down here. Billy seems to make the cut all the time here, but never finishes inside the top 30. But I'm with you on Henley. I did like what I saw from him. He's got a 17th and a 19th recently. He almost made it out of match play. He played pretty well. Bubba, I'm not down with Bubba. He had a knee surgery last year after PGA Championship, and he hasn't really played a whole lot of golf. He's 44 years old. The price would be nice, but I think if he was in a little bit more form, I might shoot at him. And then just to finish it off down here, there's a few more guys. Seamus, I got no problem with at 6,800. Harmon's had some good history here before, but I don't think I'll play him. Willett, I'm down with. He putts well here. He plays good in the wind if it gets gusty over the weekend. He doesn't seem to mind the inclement weather, but he still has a 12th and a 25th in the last 2 out of 3 years. And the 25th was in 2020, which 2020 is significant to me because that was when they played it in the fall. The course was wet. They had rain delays, so it plays a little softer then. Last couple of guys, since we're running short on time. Sepp Straka, that's the one I wanted to mention. $6,300, finished 22nd at Valero last week, had a 30th in his first crack last year. Left to right ball flight, Honda winner. If his irons are working, he'll be a good play at 6,300. If his irons are off, he'll be an absolute disaster. And then there's a few more guys down here, but I'm not getting into the old school guys. We all know about the Niles and the HV3s and whatnot. But what are you looking at in these last couple of ranges, Dave?
Same names that you just mentioned. I'll consider Tom Hoagie. I mean, obviously he's one of the elite guys when we talk strokes gained approach, and he's another Georgia Bulldog. So Hoagie for me comes into play.
Fearless too.
Yeah, Taylor Gooch, who played here last year as a debutant, had that T14 just like Minwoo, and sub 7K. I don't mind taking a couple shares at Gooch. Another live guy. Then Danny Willett. I'm with you on Danny Willett. Sepp Straka, you mentioned, another Georgia Bulldog. So I have no problem rolling Sepp Straka. And anybody below that, most likely not. I mean, the field, I believe, is 88. You can almost eliminate 14 guys, so when you do that, if exactly 50 guys make the cut this week, we're looking at almost 68% of the field making the cut. So you can almost consider this like a no cut tournament because we can eliminate 14, 15 guys right off the bat. So just know that you're going to have high 6 of 6s. And if you're playing GPP, you probably might want to pivot off the higher owned guys like Connors, like we mentioned, and maybe you take the chance on Brooks, who has that win equity in him, and that could separate you in the GPP.
That is great advice, actually, because I was thinking the same thing as I wrote my initial list down. Was that I've got so many golfers here, and I will whittle them down, but I think I might just play a pure ownership game when it comes up top, and just play, like if JT's 11 or 12%, I'm pivoting to him over Jordan Spieth. I'll just take that chance. Or if Finau gets too out of hand, DJ at 10, 9, 6. I mean, you can have two of these guys in a lineup, no big deal. But you don't want to start stocking up like, going, okay, well, I'm going to start out and play Rory, Spieth, and Corey Connors, and then and Sungjae, and you got all these dudes that are 20% owned in your lineup when there's plenty of dudes right next to them that have the capability of doing, like Brooks Koepka, like I said, knee injury aside, he might be gearing up for this. We don't know. Brooks has been like a troll sometimes back in the past anyway. So just keep that in mind when you're going out here. And good luck to everybody this week. Appreciate you watching. Thanks for joining me, Dave. And till the next video, we'll see you soon.